Welcome to Math 1034. I'm just going to take you through a quick review of the content that we did in week 1 in case you missed it. So first of all, there is no big deal with the math that we're going to be doing. It's pretty basic math, so please don't panic when you hear the idea of math. There is a basic recipe for success in math, and that is the BEDMAS idea. So I've broken it down into something a little different for you. Think of it kind of like a recipe. You have to break the eggs first, then you mix the dough before you add the sprinkles, okay? So breaking the eggs is brackets and exponents. Mixing the dough is multiplication and division, which happen at the same time. And adding sprinkles is addition and subtraction. So you do the pieces in this order. The brackets and exponents, you have to decide which one is going to take priority. Brackets are going to take priority over exponents. So here is an example, something you can try. I will also load the PowerPoint itself so you can go through and try these individually. So this one here, if you want to try this out before you watch the rest of the video, get the answer and then check it against what you see on the next slide. So I must have had a couple of extra copies of that slide going on there. Anyways, so you have to use the 6 a second time, so we just bring that across and we multiply the 3 times 4 first to get 12, so you get 18. That's the answer to that one. Okay, now how to write when you're doing math. You start with what you're trying to calculate or the label, and we'll get into labels a little later in the course. But what you want to remember is you want to keep the equal signs in line with each other, okay? And anything that you're going to use again, you're going to write directly underneath the previous one. You want to leave a little bit of space between the lines like this in case you have fractions to deal with on the different lines so they don't start getting confused with each other. Here's another one to try. There's your answer. And another one. Notice the equal signs are kept in line. We are not going to deal with the divide by 5 just yet, so we're going to bring it down to the next line, solve the content inside the brackets, and then on the third line you do the next stage. So you got that? Good for you. Alright, let's take a quick look at fractions. Again, don't panic, we're going to take it a piece at a time. You may remember these guys. They're from way back, but they were famous for their love of pizza. So we're going to borrow the pizza idea to do fractions. Now typically if you're going to divide up a pizza or anything else, you want to try and divide it into equal parts, right? You're not going to do something like this because you're going to end up with a fight, as any parent might know. So you're going to divide equally into 4 parts in this case because there are 4 of them that have to share this pizza. And the division, the fraction actually comes from the division sign. Okay, so the bottom number tells you how many pieces you divided it into. The top number tells you how many pieces you currently have. So this picture here represents 4 pieces of the 4 that we cut it into in the first place. If one of the guys comes through and eats one of the pieces, you now only have 3 of the original 4 pieces. So the number of pieces is on top. It was divided into the thing on the bottom, the number on the bottom, and it is referred to as the numerator and the denominator, and it starts with the same letter, so hopefully that'll help you remember what they are. This is also known as a proper fraction because the top number is smaller than the bottom number. In other words, you have less than 1 of whatever it is you started off with, okay? It can also be written like this. If it's not written directly over each other, you can write it like this as well. All right, so Here's a picture, and the idea is you write out the fraction. Okay, so the denominator is what you're going to write first. You can look at this and see it was divided into 3 pieces, and you currently have 2 of them. This one here was divided into 2 pieces, and you only have 1 of them, and so on. Okay, so now let's try something a little different. All right, you have this one. What's the fraction for this? You only have 1 piece. You didn't divide it up, and you still have it. So this is 1 over 1. What about this one? How many pieces did you divide each pizza into? Only 1, right? But you do have 2 pieces, so you've got 2 of the 1 because you didn't divide it up. All right, you can totally do this. Now, improper fractions is kind of like what you were just seeing, where you start off with more than 1, okay? But you may not have 2 whole pizzas, you may have 2 and a bit, right? So let's take a look. This one here is more than 1 because you started off with 4 pieces per pizza, but you somehow have 5 of them now. So it means you have more than 1 pizza. To figure out how many pieces you have, or you could put it into a decimal, you take the top number, divide it by the bottom number, right? And 4 goes into 5 once, so you have 1 whole pizza there, and then you have an extra quarter. So this is referred to as a mixed number. So the improper fraction is when you have a larger number on top and a smaller number on the bottom. A mixed number is when you have a whole number and a fraction together to represent what you see here. All right, so a few more examples. Pause the video at any time so that you can get yourself a little more time, but it will flip to the next slide when this timer fills up. The idea is you want to be able to write each of these as a mixed number or a decimal or both. Well, here are the mixed numbers. This one is 2 1/2, this one is 2 4/9. 8 over 3 works out to 2 2/3, and 15 over 4 works out to 3 3/4. And if you wanted decimals, you simply divide the top number by the bottom number, and whatever the calculator gives you is the decimal. Cool. All right, so complex fractions. Sounds like it's a big deal, but it's actually not so bad. This is a complex fraction. But remember that when you have a smaller fraction, like a regular fraction, the top number is divided by the bottom number, right? So this means 5 divided by 4. So this means 3/4 divided by 2. So you can write it out like that. But then you can simplify it further, right? Because that also means 3 divided by 4. So now you've got everything in a straight line. You can put it into a calculator and end up with an answer. So the trick with these is to remember what that division, what that fraction line means. It means divided by whatever's on the bottom. So you simplify, and then you simplify again. Or you can do it all in one step. It can also be written this way, because since it's 3 divided by 4, see it says 3 divided by 4 divided by 2, that 3 is getting divided by 4 and by 2, so you could have written it like this too. You get the same answer. The reason this works is because the 4 times 2 is inside of the brackets. That means you have to multiply that first and then divide whatever you get. Divide the 3 by whatever you get. Try it out. Here's another one you can try. Use any of the methods that I just showed you. Rock on. All right, so simplifying fractions. That's when you have a fraction that could have smaller numbers on the top and the bottom. The way you simplify fractions is you have to remember to divide both the top and the bottom by the same number. Okay, like that. So this works out to be 1/2. It's usually written like this. Try this one. But then you can do it again, because both of these can be divided by 3, can't they? If you're really clever and you realize that 9 can go into 45, then you can skip the middle step and go straight from the 9 over 45 to the 1 over 5. What about this one? Okay, so to keep this video short, I'm just going to skip to the next one, but the idea is that you convert these to a smaller fraction with smaller numbers. You're going to simplify these fractions, okay? Okay, multiplying fractions. When you need to multiply one fraction by another, you multiply the 2 top numbers to get your answer, and then the 2 bottom numbers to get your answer. Oh, whenever you see of, typically it means multiply. So in this phrase, in this question at the top here, you see the word of, so think in your head, multiply. So 1/2 times 1/4. See it? Okay, try this one. This is 2/3 of 4/5, or 4/5 of 2/3. It works in both directions. Okay, so 1 divided by 4 is 1 over 4, remember? So if we did 1 divided by 4, 1 divided by 4, it actually means this. It just works out like that. Look at it again. Where was it? Here. 1 divided by 4 means the 1 is on top and the 4 is underneath, right? So 1, I just moved the division sign down. 1 divided by 4. The 4 has to end up underneath. So you put the 4 underneath. And as it works out, when you multiply it by the upside down fraction, you get the 4 underneath like that. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. So what you take away from this is if you have to divide by a number or a fraction, basically what you can do is you can flip the second half upside down like this, and then you have multiply to deal with instead of divide. So think of them as upside down. Okay, addition and subtraction. Let's see. A quarter and a quarter. How much money do you have? 50 cents, right? Which is half of a dollar. But that's how it works out. As long as the numbers on the bottom are all the same, you can just add the top ones together and put it over the same number, and then simplify. This one will work the same way, see? Because the two numbers on the bottom are the same, so you can just add the two on top. Don't forget, keep the equal signs in line. But what if the numbers on the bottom are different? Remember how this works out? You can do it the other way around. You can make the numbers bigger by multiplying by the same thing top and bottom. So in this case, what we can do is we can use this 1/3 here, multiply top and bottom by 4, so you end up with a bigger number. Multiply these two by 3, so look at this, 4 times 3 and 4 times 3, so you end up with two fractions with the same bottom number, same denominator. Then you can add them together. You could multiply all of the denominators by each other, but it's probably simpler if you know how to use the lowest common denominator, okay? From fractions to decimals. All right, now this is where money is going to make things easier for you. Your knowledge of money means you can already do this. Take a look. This here, this coin is called a quarter, right? 25 cents. It's written like this. This fraction is this in decimals, right? How you figure it out? You take the 1 and divide it by the 4 with your calculator, and that's what you're going to get. Just like that. What about 2 over 4? 3 over 4. All right, now let's use the same pattern. Remember, math is all about patterns. So think about the pattern you just saw, and how does this work? How would it work for this one? That's your answer. Okay, now try this one. This is an improper fraction, so you're going to end up with a decimal that has a whole number in the front and then numbers to the right of the decimal. If you wanted to do this in decimals, you could figure out what that is as a decimal first, and then the 3 over 4 as a decimal, and then you can add them together later. So you don't always have to use fractions. You can convert to decimals and go from there. Decimals to fractions. 0.25 means 25 over 100. The 1 gets substituted for the period, right? So you end up disappearing that point there. It's 25 over 100. So 0.25 means 25 over 100. If you divide top and bottom by 25 to simplify, you end up with 1 over 4. So 0.75 as a fraction. How would you do that? Did you get 3/4? What about this one? That was 0.375. Okay, let's take a look at percent. Percent is kind of a different way of thinking about fractions and decimals. The symbol comes from the number 100. You still have the 1 and the 2 zeros. It's just arranged in a different way to look like that. A cent in money is one of 100 pieces of a dollar, right? So when you hear percent, think money. Think of how many cents you have, okay? You divided the whole thing by 100. So percent means divided by 100, or something over 100. 25% is 25 divided by 100. In decimals, it looks like this. In fractions, it looks like this. Of course, you can simplify that to end up with a quarter, which, as it happens, is another name for that. Now, 80% as a fraction. Remember, when you hear percent, think cents, okay? How would you write 80 cents? You want to write it as a fraction, you're going to put 1 over 80 over 100, and then you simplify and you get 1 over 8. If you want a decimal, you're going to do something else, right? This one you want a fraction, so you're going to put that number over 100 and then simplify. So here are different ways of writing the same thing. 25%, 25%. Here, I want you to hear 25 cents and then write it out like that. Okay? 49 cents, 81 cents, 81%. Think of cents and percent in the same way. And that's how easy it is. Didn't have a big closing slide, but that's all there is to the arithmetic that we're doing. It's not going to get any more complicated than that. You're going to see a bunch of different kinds together, maybe on the same day in the same problem, but it doesn't get any fancier, any more challenging. Okay? So if you need to watch this again, by all means, I'm going to leave it up on Blackboard for you as long as you need it. And I'll see you in class. Take care.